"Ethan, this seat's for board members only," my former headmaster said, pointing to a folding chair by the coffee station. A few alumni smirked. Then the staff brought over the $3,100 invoice and set it in front of me. I smiled, stood up, and said, "Good thing I don't consult for free." Then, the email hit my inbox at 11:53 p.m. Subject line, Strategic Alumni Dinner. Tomorrow. The name was wrong, Ehin, instead of Ethan, and there was no mention of a guest, plus the RSVP form was missing. Typical. My name is Ethan Wilder. I'm 41 years old, and I live in Boston. I'm a software consultant. Not just good at what I do, respected. That's what they say. But when it comes to my old prep school network, I'm not Ethan the expert. I'm just Ethan the guy who can fix their systems, recover corrupted drives, take a quick look at their kids' college apps, or help debug an educational platform on a Sunday night. That's what being one of our own means, apparently. The invite was from Mr. Hargrove, Harold Hargrove, the retired headmaster, still very much clinging to his grip on the alumni scene. His message said the dinner was to honor 10 remarkable graduates shaping the world. The tone was grand, overly sentimental. It made my stomach turn. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. Instead, I showed up. I even brought a gift. I had spent $300 getting a custom crystal plaque made, laser engraved with the school's crest and the phrase "Shared Legacy, Enduring Excellence." I thought it would be a nice gesture. Something dignified. Something that might finally earn me more than just the role of unpaid tech guy. I arrived early. The event was held in the school's boardroom, a space I hadn't seen since I was 17. Mahogany panels, chandelier, old oil portraits. All of it just as I remembered. Smug, polished, inherited. No one was there yet, except for one woman from the events team who gave me a distracted nod and pointed toward the table. I approached it, hoping to find my name, maybe a folder like the others had, with bios or a seating chart. But my name wasn't there. There was no folder for me. Instead, Mr. Hargrove appeared, all teeth and vintage cologne, clapping a hand on my shoulder like we were war buddies. "Ehin," he said, mispronouncing it with flair. "Glad you could make it on such short notice. We had a last-minute dropout, so I thought, why not loop in our resident wizard?" Wizard. Right. Not alumnus. Not honoree. Wizard. He gestured vaguely toward the back of the room. "We've got a little overflow seating near the coffee station. Hope that's all right." Overflow. Like I was a tray of muffins they didn't expect. I managed a smile. Sure. But as I walked toward the folding chair by the wall, carrying my carefully wrapped plaque, I saw Thomas Norridge, hedge fund prince and golden boy of the class of '02, snicker and whisper something to the guy beside him. Both of them laughed, quick and sharp, like the punchline was me. It was all so familiar. That feeling of being useful but invisible. Welcomed, but only as long as I stayed quiet and contributed. The crystal plaque stayed in my bag. By the time the dinner started, I already knew how the rest of the evening would go. And I already felt that old voice stirring in the back of my head, the one I'd spent years trying to ignore. "You don't belong here. You never did." The dinner kicked off exactly how you'd expect from a prep school clinging to prestige like a dying star. Soft jazz, filtered lighting, waiters moving with choreographed precision. Everyone wore their finest. Even the room seemed dressed to impress, with its polished mahogany panels, vaulted ceiling, and that ridiculous oil painting of the founder glaring down like God himself had graduated from here. I tried to play it cool. I nodded at a couple familiar faces, former classmates who pretended not to recognize me. That part didn't surprise me. Most of them had only reached out in the past decade when they needed a favor, a website unbricked, a server rebuilt, someone to proofread a tech grant submission. Now they walked past me without so much as a glance. I took the seat Mr. Hargrove had pointed me to, a folding chair beside the coffee station, half hidden by a decorative plant. No placard. No personalized folder like the others had in front of them. Just a lonely napkin and a sweating pitcher of tap water. Across the room, the real table sparkled. 10 seats arranged in a semicircle around Mr. Hargrove himself. Each had a black leather folder, neatly monogrammed. The name tags were typed and embossed. I recognized at least 6 of them. Thomas, obviously, at the center of it all. Lauren Braddock, the biopharma exec. Stephen Kim, now lobbying in D.C. They were all there. I saw it then clearly. This wasn't a dinner to honor alumni. It was a curated showcase. A chance for the school to flaunt its investment returns, to say, "Look who we produced." And I wasn't part of the display. I was part of the utility closet. Mr. Hargrove called for attention by tapping the side of his wine glass. "We're thrilled to have you all here tonight," he began, "especially those who've made time from such demanding schedules to join us." His eyes passed over the center table like a proud uncle admiring his trophy case. "And of course," he continued, glancing vaguely toward the back, "we have some of our ever-faithful behind-the-scenes heroes here as well. Always supporting. Always ready to lend a hand." Some heads turned. Not many. A few awkward smiles. I caught Lauren glancing at me, then away, fast. Like eye contact might make her complicit. That's when Thomas leaned over to the guy beside him, Miles, I think, who once cheated off me in AP Physics, and muttered something. Both of them laughed. Not loud, but loud enough. I watched Thomas cover his mouth with his napkin and nod toward the back like he was trying to disguise a joke. His shoulders bounced with quiet laughter. The others picked up on it. Even Mr. Hargrove's lips twitched. No one said anything to me. I sat there, staring down at my hands. The folding chair creaked every time I shifted, reminding me, again and again, that I wasn't meant to be part of this table, this narrative, this version of success. I poured myself some lukewarm coffee, mostly to have something to do with my hands. I thought about the crystal plaque in my bag, still wrapped, still unmentioned. I imagined what would happen if I pulled it out and walked up to the head table. Would they clap? Would they laugh? Would anyone even care? The answer, I realized, was no. To them, I wasn't a peer. I was a resource. The guy who fixed the server, ran the alumni database backend, and once rewired the AV room before a major donor gala without being asked. Not a colleague, not a success story, just a background character. And they'd made sure I knew it before the appetizers even hit the table. After dessert, a dry creme brulee passed around like communion. The lights dimmed, and a projector buzzed to life. A glossy, overproduced video filled the boardroom. Footage of the old chapel bell, grainy yearbook photos, drone shots sweeping across the lawn like it was a national monument. A narrator droned on about tradition, integrity, and lifelong brotherhood. I sat back in my folding chair, my feet half tucked under the refreshment table, and watched the room bathe in nostalgia. The crowd lapped it up, some dabbing their eyes like it meant something. Thomas even stood for a brief moment during the class of '02 montage, raising his glass like he was saluting a fallen comrade. Meanwhile, I kept glancing toward the hallway. I was trying to time my exit, wait for a natural break, slip out unnoticed. But then the lights came back on, and the staff began clearing dishes. Waiters in white gloves moved around the main table with quiet efficiency, gathering wine glasses, collecting plates with silver tongs. I stood to toss my coffee cup, paper, of course, not porcelain like the rest, and that's when a young guy in a vest stepped up to me. "Excuse me, sir," he said politely. "Just wanted to confirm. Our manager noted you'd be settling the bill tonight." I blinked. "Sorry." He smiled apologetically and handed me a small leather folio. "The organizers listed you as the point of contact for payment." My hand moved before my brain did. I opened it. Inside was an itemized invoice. Catering, prefix, for courses $1,800. Vintage wine pairings, $950. Custom desserts and coffee service, $220. Service charge, $150. Total, $3,120. I stared at it, willing the numbers to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Across the room, Mr. Hargrove was standing near the fireplace with a scotch in hand. He caught my eye, raised his glass, and winked. A long, slow, smug wink. Something in me turned off. Not panic, not anger, just stillness. A quiet, detached kind of understanding settled over me like dust. This was always the plan. I was never supposed to be honored. I was the donor, the favor, the utility, the name they penciled in when they needed something fixed, and erased when they needed a clean narrative. I didn't say a word to the waiter. I just nodded, closed the folio, and placed it neatly on the nearest linen-covered table. Across the room, Thomas let out a laugh, loud, performative, echoing off the old wood panels. I think it was a joke about crypto. Everyone leaned in. No one noticed I was no longer smiling. No one noticed I didn't sit back down. They'd set the trap. And for once, I wasn't the one stepping into it. I was stepping out. Something inside me had shifted. Not broken. Unlatched. I didn't storm out. That's the part people always get wrong about these moments. They think there's drama, shouting, wine glasses thrown, chairs screeching back from the table. But there was none of that. I stood quietly, smoothed the front of my blazer, and walked over to the center of the room. I passed the main table slowly, deliberately, letting the hush fall over the clink of cutlery and half-hearted small talk. Someone noticed. Then another. A few heads turned. I stopped beside Mr. Hargrove, who was swirling the last of his scotch like it was fine art. "Lovely evening," I said calmly. He looked up, surprised. "Ah, Ethan. Everything squared away, I hope." I smiled. "Yep. Just wanted to say, good thing I'm not part of the team anymore." I didn't raise my voice, but it didn't have to be loud. I said it clearly, with intention, enough for the nearest tables to go quiet. Someone across the room let out an awkward laugh, like they weren't sure if it was a joke. Mr. Hargrove's smile froze. "The team?" he asked. I nodded. "The alumni team. The silent support system. The guy in the back who gets to pay the bill and sit by the coffee urn." I reached into my bag, pulled out the crystal plaque I'd brought, still wrapped in its soft navy blue cloth, and held it up. By the way, I'll be taking this home. Turns out, shared legacy isn't as mutual as I thought. I turned and walked out, passing the same people who'd avoided eye contact earlier. They didn't avoid it now. Some looked embarrassed. A few looked annoyed. Most just looked confused, like they'd just lost a tool they assumed would always be there. Mr. Hargrove said something behind me, but I didn't catch it. I didn't need to. At the front office, I asked for the bursar. The receptionist blinked. Sorry, the staff who handled tonight's event. I want to settle my personal tab with them directly. Tip included. She hesitated, then nodded. Of course. I made sure every one of the wait staff, the assistants, even the janitor working overtime in the hallway, got a cut of the envelope I left. They had nothing to do with what happened, and I wasn't about to let my exit punish people like me. Those who actually kept things running. Outside, the cold air hit me like a reset button. I looked up at the old chapel tower, the bell still lit like some divine relic. I remembered sitting under it years ago as a senior, notebook in hand, dreaming of the day I'd be successful enough to matter. I smiled bitterly. I had become successful, just not in a way that earned me a real seat at their table. But that was okay, because now, I was walking away from the table altogether. I got home a little after midnight. I didn't take off my coat. I didn't pour a drink or turn on the lights. I just sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and started logging in, one by one. The first account I killed was the shared alumni cloud drive. I'd set it up 3 years ago after a frantic email from the development office. Their files were scattered, their tech outdated. I'd built the whole thing, folder hierarchies, security permissions, backups. I hovered over the owner tag beside my name. Clicked. Changed it to none. Then hit delete. Next, the education software suite. They'd needed licenses for their EdTech pilot, but didn't want to pay for the enterprise version. I'd signed up under my personal business account, 10 seats, renewed annually, billed to my card. I logged in, navigated to billing, and canceled the auto-renew. I didn't stop there. I accessed the virtual classroom beta I'd been hosting on my private server. I'd offered it to them for free, back when I still thought goodwill would lead to recognition. Hundreds of student accounts had been filtered through it. They used my framework to test analytics tools, parent dashboards, even internal training simulations. I shut it down. Not abruptly. I scheduled a sunset notice. 2 weeks notice, just like I'd do for any client. I wasn't here to hurt students or staff. I was here to remind the school what it felt like to lose access to something they took for granted. Then I opened the archive folder on my desktop. Inside was a spreadsheet I'd started keeping a couple years ago. Nothing fancy, just a running log of everything I'd done for the school since graduating. Sheet 1, Tech Contributions. Server Maintenance Logs. Custom Scripts for Donation Tracking. Zoom Webinar Integration Setup for Admissions Week. Sheet 2, Unpaid Hours. Website Rebuild, 42 hours. Emergency System Restore, during snowstorm, 11 hours. Board Meeting Deck Design, 5.5 hours. Sheet 3, Credentials Used Without Permission. Admin Login for the Donor Portal. Ethan W. Consult at Access used for internal newsletters. Slack Workspace tied to my private domain. I had receipts. All of them. Screenshots. Emails. Timestamps. I wasn't trying to build a case back then. I just kept the records because something in my gut told me I might need them someday. That someday was now. I copied everything into a clean folder and uploaded it to a secure drive. Shared the link with my attorney and typed out a formal message. Initiating IP protection filing proprietary code used in school platforms. Please review attached evidence. Draft cease and desist letter as discussed. I hit send. And just like that, I was no longer the generous alumnus. I was no longer the quietly competent support guy behind the curtain. I was a service provider who'd been used. A professional taking steps to end the exploitation. And if they wanted a favor again, they could book a consultation at full rate, up front, with terms in writing. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the dark screen. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like maintenance. Long overdue maintenance on the broken machinery of how I'd let people treat me. The first wave hit my inbox within 36 hours. Subject lines like, "What's going on? Need to clear the air. You're overreacting." Thomas was the first to reach out. Of course he was. "Hey man," his email began. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Hargrove never expected you to foot the bill. We all thought you volunteered, like you always do." "Right. Like I always do." Lauren's message was colder. "Disabling access to the alumni portal without a heads-up feels petty. We're all adults here." She ended it with a passive-aggressive smiley face. "One of the IT interns at the school emailed me, begging for help. They're asking me to rebuild what you made, but I don't even know where to begin. Did I do something wrong?" I didn't respond to any of them. By the end of the week, the tone shifted. The messages started sounding more like threats than invitations. Stephen Kim wrote, "Just FYI, legal might get involved if any confidential data was mishandled." Hargrove himself finally sent a short, stiff note, "Ethan, we are deeply disappointed in how you've chosen to handle this. I expected more maturity from a man of your experience." I rolled my eyes. That one almost made me laugh. But then came the call from my mother. She rarely phoned this late, especially not after I told her I was pulling back from all school-related nonsense. "Still," I answered. "Ethan," she started, voice already strained. "What's all this about?" "Harold called me. He said you're threatening legal action and cutting the school off." I didn't say anything at first. Just let the silence sit there. Finally, I asked, "Did you know I was going to be billed for that dinner?" She hesitated. I could hear the tension in her breath. Then, softly, it was assumed. "You're so generous, sweetheart." Everyone thought that I'd play my part. I finished for her. "Pay the bills." Smile from the sidelines. "Except being invisible." "Ethan," she said, her voice breaking a little, "can't you just let this go? For the sake of your legacy?" I almost laughed again. "My legacy?" I said. "I'm done buying a seat at a table that was never meant for me." There was a long pause. Then she said, barely above a whisper, "I don't even recognize you." "I do," I replied. "For the first time, I do." I ended the call before she could say anything else. And I didn't feel guilt. Not even a flicker. Because this wasn't about burning bridges. It was about finally accepting that some bridges were never built for you in the first place. I sent the email on a Monday morning. No drama. No fancy language. Just a clear subject line. Summary of contributions and terms for future engagement. It went out to every alumni mailing list I'd ever been added to, development, volunteer coordination, IT steering committee, you name it. Over 100 recipients. All the people who had casually leaned on me for tech help over the years passed my name around like a spare screwdriver. The body of the email was short. "Hello all. I've attached a documented breakdown of my past contributions to the school, including technical work, event support, and system infrastructure. All services provided were unpaid and unacknowledged, despite repeated use over several years. Going forward, all inquiries or requests involving my time, platforms, or intellectual property must go through legal channels. No hard feelings. Just clear boundaries. Ethan Wilder." I attached 2 PDFs. The first, a 15-page document itemizing everything I'd built, supported, or rescued. Server uptime reports. Domain renewals. Zoom admin logs. Even screenshots of internal emails where school staff had asked me to fix something real quick. The second, a list of active services tied to my credentials. I included end dates, deactivation timelines, and alternatives they could pursue if they wanted to rebuild things legitimately. No threats. No venom. Just the truth, neatly formatted, time-stamped, and irrefutable. I hit send. Then I logged out and went for a walk. By the time I got back to my apartment, my phone had 5 missed calls and 24 new emails. One caught my eye immediately. From d.charles@eastbrookboard.org. Subject, summary of contributions. Message. "OF. This will kill our budget." He'd hit reply all. It took less than 5 minutes before someone else replied, "Just FYI, that wasn't meant for the full list." Too late. More emails trickled in. Some were apologetic. Some were defensive. One alum wrote, "Didn't realize you did all that. Thought the school had a real IT department." Exactly. The best part? I didn't have to say anything else. The document spoke for me. The silence that followed spoke louder. Because once the illusion cracked, once they saw just how much they depended on me quietly showing up, it wasn't about the tech anymore. It was about the narrative. The one where they were the polished success stories, and I was the behind-the-scenes fixer who never needed credit. Now they saw it for what it really was, extraction. Mass tradition. And I had just shut it off like flipping a switch. By Thursday afternoon, I got served. A courier knocked on my office door with a manila envelope marked confidential. Inside was a lawsuit, filed by Harold Hargrove himself. Allegations, defamation, disruption of institutional operations, and this part made me laugh, breach of verbal commitment. Verbal commitment. That was rich. According to the complaint, I had jeopardized the reputation and funding stability of the Eastbrook Preparatory Alumni Program through reckless communication and unauthorized withdrawal of services previously promised in good faith. I read the entire thing twice, then forwarded it to my legal team with a single sentence. See attached. Time to use the receipts. My attorney, Carla, called me within the hour. "This is nonsense," she said, flipping through the file. "You didn't sign a contract. They have no legal standing. And even if they argue implied agreement, we've got evidence showing you were repeatedly misled and never compensated. Send them a response," I said. "Include the email Hargrove sent me in 2021. The one where he wrote, We'll make it worth your while someday, Ethan. Just know how grateful we are. Carla chuckled. The phrase someday isn't binding, but the tone sure as hell is exploitive. Good, I said. Let's make that clear. But I didn't stop there. I opened a separate folder on my computer labeled EdStart Incorporated. It was a side project I'd helped incubate for the school back in 2019, a student-run educational app using gamified lesson plans and predictive feedback. The school had pitched it as a learning sandbox, but the infrastructure? That was all mine. I built the back end. I ran the beta environment. I even hosted their analytics pipeline during launch. And thanks to an old tech incubator clause I'd slipped into the platform's terms of use, one that no one had ever bothered to read, I held a standing 25% equity stake in any commercial derivative built from the system. Guess what the school had done? They spun off the app last year, made it a startup, landed a seed investment from a private equity firm. It had its own branding now, its own app store listing. But the bones of the system? Still mine. Carla whistled when she saw the documentation. They thought you forgot, she said. They never imagined I was keeping track, I replied. We filed a legal notice that afternoon. Formal enforcement of intellectual property ownership in all derivatives of the EdStart platform. Either the school could renegotiate or buy me out. If they resisted, we'd go public with timestamps and source code comparisons. By the end of the week, the lawsuit from Hargrove evaporated. No apology. No retraction. Just silence. Like someone had warned him not to poke the bear again. But the real payoff came 2 weeks later. An email from the new CEO of EdStart, short and professional. We'd like to discuss a formal buyout of your stake, along with full release of any associated backend tools you've maintained. Please name your price. I did. It was generous. And it came with one non-negotiable clause. No more association with Eastbrook Prep. No endorsements. No alumni badges. No plaques. They agreed. And just like that, the financial lifeline Harold Hargrove and his cronies had quietly wrapped around me was cut at the root. They wanted to sue me into silence. Instead, I cashed out and closed the door behind me. The lawsuit fizzled out without fanfare. No dramatic court battle. No PR spin from the school. Just silence. The kind that's carefully crafted in boardrooms, behind oak-paneled doors, where men like Hargrove are told by lawyers to shut up and let it go. 2 board members reached out a week later with identical messages. Regret how things unfolded. Hope there's room for future dialogue. One of them, I noticed, had previously laughed at Thomas's crypto joke while I was sitting by the coffee station. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. The buyout from EdStart landed a few days after that. Enough money to make walking away feel not just justified, but deeply satisfying. I let Carla handle the final paperwork. The only thing I asked was that they scrub my name from any promotional material tied to the app. If they wanted to build empires using my work, they'd do it without pretending I was part of the family. The next Eastbrook Gala limped along. An old classmate posted on LinkedIn that the turnout was intimate and exclusive. Translation, they barely hit RSVP minimums. No tech presentation. No fancy alumni video. No back-end wizard to hold things together quietly. Meanwhile, I was in Patagonia. No cell service. No itinerary. Just a one-man tent, miles of mountain air, and the kind of silence you can't find anywhere near people who expect things from you. I hiked for days, waking up with the sun, falling asleep to the sound of wind rushing through valleys. I cooked over fire. I read paper books. I didn't check my email once. And when I finally came back to Boston, tan and bearded in common a way I hadn't felt in years, I found a single envelope waiting in my mailbox. No return address. No stamp. Just hand-delivered. Inside was a note, written in plain pen on heavy stationery. You were right. No signature. No apology. No name. But I didn't need either. It didn't matter who sent it. What mattered was that someone inside that old machine had finally seen it for what it was. Maybe more than one. Maybe a crack was forming. Or maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't frame the note. I didn't burn it, either. I just slipped it into the back of the file where I kept my alumni records. Then I closed the drawer. And I never opened it again.